something a woman might drive a man to do?
Go shopping with her.
Go shopping.
Kill himself.
Kill himself, wow. Might not be up there, but I damn sure thought it a couple times. Yeah, my ex-wife, yes sirree, thought about killing myself.
Naomi, what was that?
That was Steve Harvey being misogynistic and telling the world that the only way to get out of a marriage is by death, which is funny because he's divorced multiple women multiple times.
And which marriage was he trying to get out of?
That was his second marriage.
Oh, okay. Just asking for a friend. Welcome back to Why Will No One Date Steve Harvey? It's a podcast all about Steve Harvey and his many flings. We used to talk about other things, but Steve Harvey is our new obsession because, boy, his mouth just opens and a whole master's thesis in relationship psychology spills out. I'm Joel Guy.
I'm Naomi Guy.
And we're Why Will No One Date These Guys? It's a podcast exploring the culture and media influencing perceptions of romance in this modern era. Naomi, do you have anything to drink this week?
I do. I have a sparkling raspberry lime water from Trader Joe's. I'm slowly trying all their sparkling water. They have seasonal waters, like their green apple water. I really enjoyed that one. It tasted like a green apple Jolly Rancher, minus all of the sweeteners and, all of the colorings and all that. So here, let me try this one. Yeah, that really catches the essence of raspberry and lime. I like it. It's pretty good.
You do like it. This is like the first sparkling Trader Joe's water you've enjoyed.
That is untrue. I literally just said that I like the apple one.
Oh, well, I should probably pay attention to you. You can't see, but I am drinking more poppy soda. I have their strawberry lemon today. I'm kind of excited because strawberry and lemon are both like pretty forward flavors, and you think that when you add them to a soda, you don't need to do much in order to make it taste good. Let's find out. No. It's like strawberry lemon water with stevia, and the stevia is like way too strong. I'm not a fan.
So
if this is a replacement for strawberry lemonade,
have you tried the strawberry vanilla
I don't know if that
flavor?
sentence made sense. Yeah.
Did you try the strawberry vanilla?
You know, it's
dang it, Joel. Next episode, you're trying that.
Yeah. So, Naomi, we are back today, and we are finishing a book. Gosh darn it. We are going to Straight Talk No Chaser Express, and we are buying a one-way ticket to the end. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. You definitely won't be cringing the entire time. Do you have the document open where I can post things?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let me post the title of the chapter. I mentioned it the last time we recorded this episode a few weeks ago, but I don't know if you remember. This is the part where it lets me paste things. This is the part where it lets me copy things. This is the part where it lets me copy things. I am hitting Control-C. This is not a tech podcast. Thank God. Why will it not let me copy things, Naomi?
I don't know.
There we go.
Oh, without nagging. Oh, that wasn't what I was expecting.
What was that chapter title, Naomi?
Okay.
Sorry, before you get started, just a quick kind of lead into this. Steve opens this chapter and he says, women, you can't nag your husband because husbands and wives have different priorities regarding the house and what defines cleanliness. And what if, Naomi, you were to come up to your husband to tell him the dishes weren't done, but he was sitting on the sofa and he had been doing stuff all afternoon? Well, that'd be pretty silly, right? And you're not a silly person, so don't do that. Don't nag your husband.
Okay, I'll try not to. I don't have a husband and we don't have a couch together, so that's going to be pretty easy. But first of all, I do have to say that that's pretty fucking stupid because when you're in a relationship, when you're in a partnership and you're living with that partner, actually even not when you're living with that partner, just my perspective, you should always be helping out because that's what a partnership is. And I get it. Not every time it's going to be 50-50. But at the same time, it's like, Sir, you need to pick up your own shit and do your own dishes. She's not your mother. Call it insensitive. Sorry, this is now Steve Harvey's words, not mine.
Call it incest? What?
Call it insensitive. Argue all you want to about how he should know by now how much you can't stand these things. The truth is, he didn't make these things a priority because dirty dishes, a full trash can, dirty clothes on the floor, and all the other things that women tend to be particular about don't bother us. He might just have his mind on other things he considers bigger than a dirty glass or a full garbage can. Really, it has nothing to do with you. So he left his dirty towel on the floor. Your man didn't do that out of that to spite you. He just dropped his towel on the floor and forgot to pick it up. So he didn't put the trash out on the curb the night before the garbage man came. He didn't take it out just as he heard the garbage truck coming around the corner to spite you. He simply thought it didn't need to be on the curb until just before the trash man came through. So he sat down to watch the game before washing the dishes right after the family ate the dinner you cooked. He's not waiting around biding his time until you break down and wash them. He decided to watch the game first and put the dishes later. And get the dishes later. So I don't like this, mainly because I am, like I mentioned before reading the Steve Harvey quote, I'm a full pusher of full partnerships and relationships. And like I mentioned before, not all partnerships are 50-50. So my biggest thing with this is that when you're in a living space, let's just even talk about it on like a dorm level. Like when you're living in the same room as someone, you don't want to like keep their side and your side dirty. Like it's a common space. So like if you're going to have a dirty space, it's going to be your space. But in this case, they're talking about a space where everyone shares. There's no space for one person and a space for another, unless you have a very big house. I'm assuming that in this economy, you do not have a very big house. And now you have to think about it as if, oh, your dorm mate is literally living on top of you. Like you have to keep your space very clean because your dorm mate is literally living in the same space as you, and you are trying to be a good human being, and you are picking up your fucking messes. And so the first thing you're going to do is when you get out of the shower, you're going to put the towel on the fucking towel rack so it can dry and you don't have that musty smell. Crazy thought, I know. And the second thing you're going to do is that if your wife is like, hey, it really bothers me when the dishes aren't done right after dinner because, I made a pasta dish and the sauce is going to stick to the pan, then you do it. And you spend 15 minutes watching the game from the kitchen. Great. Get your phone out. Get your computer out. Watch the game on your computer. I don't give a crap. Your wife probably doesn't give a crap as long as the dishes are done.
Damn. I can't believe I got Naomi riled like this. I would build off of what you're saying, Naomi. Your husband didn't leave his towel on the ground to spite you. He left the towel on the ground because he loves black mold. Can't live without it. It's like sex. Men in black mold, they're like this, right? It's like that guy from the previous book who couldn't live without pineapple juice. Black mold, that's what all men are into.
No, my issue with this is that, like, Steve Harvey's like, oh, don't nag your husband. And it's like, okay, great, I won't nag my husband, but I also don't need a husband. It's like, I would literally have the same amount of work if I didn't have a husband. So, like, what's the point of having a husband that I have to clean up after he's literally another child? Like, I don't need to nag a husband. I literally just need to clean house.
Objectively, you would have less work. Because you're not spending half an hour a day telling your husband to clean stuff up.
That's completely fair. But another side of this is like, why don't you just find a partner that you don't need to parent and you don't need to tell him what to do? Like, Steve Harvey is obviously a mama's boy, and he obviously like had everything done for him. So he doesn't think about the fact that he needs to pick up after himself. And it's like, great, if you want to live in complete filth, you know what's also possible? Having a marriage in two separate spaces. Like, I will live down the street and you can live in this house, and you can live in your fucking filth, and I will live in my clean little house down the street.
Sure. One comment about this, the way he's framing the whole trash thing is kind of stupid as someone who's familiar with the solid waste industry. you do want to put your can out the night before. You do want to put your can out typically before 5 or 6 a.m., depending on the area. The reason for that is sometimes trash trucks get dispatched early to your area, and they drive down your street, and typically they will not come out if your can isn't out. Typically, you're going to have variable set out rates on a street. So if there's 10 homes in a row, the likelihood that 3 people don't set out their containers one day is pretty high. So if you're home number 4 and you forget to put your can out and you hear that truck coming, you don't have 2 minutes. You have like 10 seconds until that truck is rumbling past your house. So that's just like men being stupid. It's not a great example either. Regarding this, like, I kind of agree with him that, like, men don't do these things despite their partner. I think maybe some do. Maybe some are in, like, horrible relationships and, like, I'll show her. I think the unfortunate reality is most men do these things because they want a mother figure to clean up after them. Most men who do these things expect that they don't have to do shit and, like, someone else will pick up the slack. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's not as though, like, men are doing this because they hate their partners, because they think of their partner as their replacement mother. And that's pretty bad. That's not great. There's no equitable distribution of anything in a relationship where that's the case.
No, I definitely agree. But then there's also the fact where I would say in some relationships, it's also weaponized incompetence. So it's the men that are doing this and putting their towel on the ground because they know that at some point the wife will stop nagging and she will just end up doing it herself.
Sure. I'm going to post a link in the chat. You don't need to pull it up, but it is interesting. So we've talked about this many, many times before about distribution of labor on our podcast. Here's some data on food prep and cleanup discrepancies, because a big part of this chapter is him being like, what are you talking about? Men grill, men do lawn care, and all of these like things that don't actually add up to that much time. But he's like, look, men are contributing members of the household. So the BLS has been tracking this for years. These stats are pretty clear. Women do more than twice the amount of food prep and cleanup as men do every single day. Now, in fairness, again, men do more lawn care than women do. Men do more interior maintenance work than women do. But the difference is 0.2 hours per day between men and women doing those things, and women average 0.75 hours more per day of household work than men do. So women are consistently working over half an hour more than men are, despite men's amazing contributions. Do the damn dishes, guy. It's not going to kill you. As Naomi said, there's plenty of options right now in the here and now to watch the game on your phone or have it, on your headphones, or bring your computer in and set it on the counter. Like, there's plenty of solutions that allow you to get the best of both worlds. There's no need to be a dick about it. So here's some suggestions that he has for women, telling men how to do things and getting them to actually do it. So the first one, Naomi, is you need to adjust your tone. You should not talk to a man like a child, right? The worst part of nagging is when you treat a man like he's incompetent. You can't ever do that.
I love going up to a man and being like, Gucci, Gucci, can you do the dishes for me?
I got 2 cookies. They're just for you. I'll warm them up even if you do the... Yeah. But look, I guess I get his greater point, which is like, no one likes to be infantilized. I don't think anyone in any context wants to be treated as though they're horribly incompetent. But in some instances, the reason someone is talking to you that way is because, like, you're acting like that, and that's the tone they use when talking to children. So it's understandable, even if it, like, doesn't necessarily work. Second thing is, let your man get to what needs to be done in his own time. And he's like, the world isn't going to end if the towel isn't picked up right that second. And I think this is another example of where weaponized incompetence comes into play, because most men who do this will not actually pick up the towel. Most men who do this will not actually get to the dishes. They're just going to let them pile up until their partner does them out of frustration. I've heard the advice, which is like, women, if you want your man to realize how much work gets done around the house, like, just stop doing the work. And that might work in some instances, but I do genuinely think in a lot of instances, the man's just going to be like, I can live like this. I can be a slob. That's not a big deal, until the partner breaks. So not sure how effective that advice is.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I don't think that that's the way to go about things. Like, if you want something to be done, you don't just like give up because they will live in literal filth.
Yeah, men are hogs. That's my advice. That's the new book I'm working on. Women are cattle, men are hogs. I won't offend anyone with this. I don't know. What animal do you think represents a woman?
Kitty cat.
Women are kitty cats, men are hogs. Doesn't roll off the tongue, huh? Okay, number 3, Naomi, is you got to choose your battles. If you get upset over everything, he'll tune out. So you got to be strategic about what you get upset over. So you got to let the towel go. But when like the roof collapses and he hasn't fixed it in 6 months, that's when you can get angry.
Oh, okay. Okay, good to know. Good to know when I can get angry and when I can't get angry.
Number 4, I'm going to have you read an anecdote from. Sorry, not an anecdote, just a line from. The line for number 4 is understand what's a priority for men. And here's some examples he gives.
There are some universal things that simply aren't a priority for most men. House cleaning, keeping the refrigerator stocked with healthy stuff, attending PTA meetings, making up the bed in the morning, asking for directions. If we have a place to eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom, most of us don't necessarily care if the floors are clean enough for you to eat off of them. And as long as there's beer and 1 or 2 things to suck down, a pack of hot dogs and some chips, we're happy with our meal plan. Who needs to go to the PTA meetings? We'd rather have our toenails pulled out one by one than sitting around listening to a bunch of parents plotting out what Kool-Aid color to serve the 5th grade at the 5th grade dance. Why make up the bed? We're just going to get back in it.
This is anecdotal, but recently I've seen a lot of videos online of jackass parents disrupting PTA meetings to talk about how their teachers are grooming kids, and a shit ton of those parents are men. So, like, he's objectively wrong. Sometimes men like going to PTA meetings, and usually it's when they want to bully someone.
The universal truth of the matter is that this is how men are made. Women, on the other hand, generally have that magical ability to be attuned to their surroundings and the needs of others, and to detect when something is wrong the moment there is a problem. You seem to absorb everything, to take it in, process it, and make sound decisions for everyone else involved. Us guys, to hell with what needs to be done or what anybody has to say about it. We have the unique ability to block out what we consider minutia. Minutia? Is that how you say that? Is that how that's spelled? Think about it. Yeah. Think about it. Your child gets hurt and he goes to his father for comfort. What's he going to get? A fix-it solution. Go over there and sit down until it stops hurting, the father will say, and that kid will look up to his dad with that look in his eyes like, dang, I need a hug, kiss my boo-boo, you need to blow on it or something. The same kid goes to his mother and he knows he's going to get nurtured, that she'll make it better, clean it up. Admittedly, this is a burden. It is your blessing and your beautiful burden. You all look at the painting and notice the brush strokes and the different shades of blue and how the texture makes the lady's eyes stand out, and all we see is a lady in a picture in a frame. The same applies with life. Women are detail-oriented. Men operate in broad strokes. This is not to spite you. It is what it is.
Oh, so Naomi, Steve isn't a sexist. This is just how God made men and women, which coincidentally aligns with his worldview. So, woo religion. Also, women's cross to bear is to be the only beings in existence with empathy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no men have empathy.
Hey, I kind of wonder why Steve has such, like, a fawning obsession with his mother, and it's almost like he was raised in these conditions and thinks that this is just how men act, or men are supposed to act, where the fathers are, like, completely emotionless and the mothers are, like, nurturing and supportive. And rather than being like, hey, maybe men should be taught to also be nurturing and supportive, he's like, okay, number 1, never talk to my daughter until she turns 13. Number 2, teach my son how to, like, wipe his dick once he's done peeing. Done. Fatherhood achieved. It's all golden. I don't have to do anything else.
Yeah, I think it's also just like it's pushed, this theory is pushed through because he divorced his wife, so he only sees his kids half the time. So he's like, oh, she does all the good stuff. They can just hang out while they're here.
Do you think he gets his kids from his previous 2 marriages Christmas gifts, or it's just like the current kids that he focuses on?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm gonna say he gets like everyone gifts so that he's still the cool dad, and like no one
Maybe.
can come forward later in People magazine and be like, my dad never got me Christmas gifts. My birthday was a burden
Sure.
to him. I
I'm
was a burden to him.
I'm picturing he goes up to one of the secretaries he's always hitting on in the office and is like, hey, can you send some holiday cards to my ex's kids? And they all have like beautiful secretarial writing being like, I am so proud of you. And then a crisp $50 bill. And that's what the kids get every single year.
$50 is not a lot of money these days. They could get...
Oh, I'm aware. Steve seems like the sort of person who's completely out of touch regarding inflation. So I'm saying 50.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I think that's a good... Yeah, okay. I agree with that.
Okay. Naomi, we've commented on, like, Steve's tone before. And this time, his phrasing was, like, very specific, where it's like, well, men are rational, and, you know, they're not emotional, and they solve problems with logic and reason, and women are supportive and have empathy. And I was like, that's a little bit of a different formulation. Is that even true? And oh boy, once I dug in, I found some interesting stuff. So Psychology Today had an article in 2020 titled, Are Men Toxic Problem Solvers? Sex Differences in Problem-Focused and Emotion-Focused Support. So this was by Douglas T. Kendrick, PhD. Research findings have not been consistent in supporting that sex difference between men and women. In the modern era, we look for a meta-analysis, a statistical aggregation findings from many studies on the same topic, in order to support that assertion. So Lisa Tomres, Denise Janicki, and Vicky Helgeson published a meta-analysis of a large number of studies on sex differences in coping behavior. The results indicate that compared to men, women are indeed more likely to engage in emotion-focused coping. The biggest sex differences were for ruminating, positive self-talk, and wishful thinking. Women were also substantially more likely to seek social support, which could be either emotion or problem-focused. But are men more likely to engage in problem-focused coping? Not exactly. It turns out that women were also more likely than men to take steps to actually change the problem. Men were simply lower in all categories of coping. The only place where men's coping strategies were equal to women's was for the category of denial. The general conclusion is that men cope less in general, but when they do, they are more likely to prioritize problem-faced coping. Women engage in just as much problem-focused coping as men, however. Women are, at the same time, much more likely to engage in other coping strategies, especially seeking support from others. Now, I'm skipping ahead to near the end of the paper because it gets into a slightly different topic. So the first part was, what do men and women do when focusing on problems that they themselves are facing? And the second part is, are men in general more likely than women to focus on problem solving when they're trying to lend social support to other people? A study by Goldsmith and Dunn addressed this by asking communication students to record what they'd say to another person experiencing stress. For instance, a best friend who had failed an important exam, a freshman who was having trouble making friends and getting dates, a close friend who had been dumped by her boyfriend, and several other problems. Once again, there was an overall sex difference, insofar that women's responses were 26% longer than were men's. But as indicated in the figure, there was no substantial sex difference in the type of support that men and women offered. For both sexes, problem-centered support was the most prevalent, and emotion-centered was the least likely. So A, women are just much more likely to actually try to solve problems that they themselves are facing, while men are much more likely to put their heads in the sand. And B, he's completely wrong about how women and men each independently work on problems, because women are just as likely as men to use rational, logic-based solutions to an issue rather than emotional sort of, I understand what you're feeling, that sucks, etc.
I love when you prove Steve Harvey wrong in every single book that he writes, because as we all know, he's not cut out to be a dating advice guru.
And like, here's my greater point. Steve is wrong about a lot of things. Steve is especially wrong about this thing, where he's talking about how like women engage in problems and how like they should just accept that that's their cross to bear. Well, instead of like telling women how they should deal with problems, maybe you should listen to your wife when she's actually trying to address things, rather than putting your head in the sand, being like, there's no problem, I'm going to continue watching the game while my towel grows black mold on the floor. That's how he's going to die. It's going to be black mold poisoning, Naomi.
No, it's going to be probably him in Vegas with a male stripper, and he's going to be watching the football game from his lazy boy.
Yeah. There was one last piece of advice he gives women who are attempting to get men to fix their behavior, and that is, whatever you do, don't take over the tasks, especially with an attitude, which, okay. He suggests you set a clear, logical reason, being more like men in his eyes, and tell them you only need help with one specific thing, and then we'll stop bothering them. So the example he gives is like, oh, you're having people over and the house is a mess. Be like, buddy, I only need your help with like cleaning up the living room, and once I'm done, you can get back to watching the game. And I think that might work, but I also think that means you're getting less work out of your partner by being like, my expectations for you are on the floor, do this tiny minuscule thing, and then you can go back to not helping me. I think the better thing long term for women who are frustrated is to earnestly address this with their partners and set clear expectations, rather than being like, you can do the bare minimum and then have fun while I, make the house look good so people don't think we live in filth.
Nice.
Chapter 10, Naomi, is called Show Your Appreciation. A little bit of gratitude goes a long way. Are you not showing enough appreciation to your husband?
First of all, I don't have a husband, but second of all, if I did have a husband, I think I would definitely appreciate him because he's not Steve Harvey.
That's fair. Well, here are some tips, Naomi, that once you've like locked down your husband, you can use in order to show appreciation to him. Because like your husband works really hard, and it's like really rude how you haven't been recognizing how hard he works.
You're so right. I'm going to go march over to my husband right now and tell him how much I appreciate him. This need to feel appreciated is human.
Husband, get off the toilet. I need to tell you how much I appreciate you. You can leave the towel on the floor. It's okay. You don't have to pick it up before you open the door. Okay, go ahead.
This need to feel appreciated is human. No matter if you're a husband or wife, boyfriend or girlfriend, or adult, teenager, or child, every last one of us looks for a stamp of approval and a simple thank you when we lend a helping hand, get the job done, and especially when we get it right. But when you show that appreciation to a man, his response to it is immeasurable, because men are so rarely thanked for what they do during the course of their days that when someone does extend a simple thank you, you are appreciated, they feel as if they won the lottery. His boss isn't likely patting him on the back saying, job well done. He's giving a paycheck. That's thanks enough. His friends aren't high-fiving him and saying, you're a great friend, man. We're way more casual about it, if we bother congratulating each other at all. And guess what? Rarely does that appreciation come from the woman we love. It is the latter that hurts men most. An admirer of the work of children. I get that no one can multitask like a woman. Whoa. I literally said I'm an admirer of the work of children.
Steve Harvey has been the one pushing for all these new child labor bills, don't you know?
An admirer of the work of women. I get that no one can multitask like a woman, that you are busy. In many cases, you're working and may even be the breadwinner for the family. You take on the lion's share of the child rearing and the household duties, and you are the keeper of the family's social calendars. If left to men, the children's annual checkups would take place every lunar year. That is, hardly ever. Birthdays would never be celebrated and gifts never purchased, and there'd be no family vacations. Yes, you run the household the way corporations ought to be run, but often husbands and otherwise committed men feel like they're near the bottom of the ladies' list of priorities, and the only time they get any kind of feedback from you is when they're not doing something right or falling down on the job. after a while, men can start to feel like they're being taken for granted, that no matter how much they do to help, no matter how much they're stretching outside of themselves to participate in the relationship in ways they aren't necessarily natural, that aren't not necessarily natural to them, it's never going to be enough to keep a smile on their ladies' faces.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Like, I think, like, I'm not necessarily agreeing with everything that he's saying, but I think that in every relationship, you should bring more appreciation into it. I think that, like,
definitely.
yes, definitely people get, you know, a little bit caught up in the day to day. I don't agree with what the fuck he's saying. He's like, oh, women, they like keep everything. But also, it's like, why are we not appreciating women? Like, when was the last time that, like, Steve Harvey went up to his wife and was like, thank you for keeping my social calendar, my children, and everything else in my life other than the money making? Actually, she probably makes money too. Thank you for keeping that under control. You know what I mean? Like, this goes both ways. Like, men are going to be like, oh, I picked up the towel today. You should, like, thank me for that. And the woman's like, well, I did the laundry the last, like, 20 years, and I raised our children, and I bought Christmas presents for everyone, and you don't even know what any of them are, but you're going to take credit for it. But yeah, no need to thank you. I'll thank you. Thank me. Thank you for, you know, picking up your towel.
Yeah. Once again, Steve also doesn't really have a lot of life anecdotes that support this philosophy too, which is really good advice when the advice you give isn't actually backed up by anything that's led to your success and happiness. And let me give you an example. Naomi, he gives this incredibly long anecdote that I'll try to skim through, and it's all prompted by him wanting to go on a golf weekend. And his wife looks at him as he's prepping to go on this golf weekend and is like, you're so spontaneous. And the way Steve tells it, he was like, I am spontaneous. I'm incredible. I'm so good at, like, getting out of my comfort zone and doing things for myself. And he was so blown away by this simple compliment from his wife, which honestly kind of seemed like a backhanded comment because he was going on this weekend without her, leaving her with the kids, being like, kind of spontaneous, you know? Little crazy, huh? He decides to take them all with him and disrupt the beauty of calm and tranquility that he was going to experience without them. Let me give you a little sample of how he describes this. So in terms of compliments, my wife Marjorie has this down to a science. Take, for instance, the solo weekend getaway I was plotting just this past spring. I had it all laid out. I was going to check into a beautiful golf resort in Georgia sometime on Saturday afternoon, get in a golf lesson at 5, spend the evening resting and enjoying a few cigars, and then wake up on Sunday, have a nice breakfast, rest up a little more, get another round of golf at 3, and then head back home just as the sun was setting so I could get in some quality sleep before I dove headfirst back into my hectic work schedule. This was going to be a rare 2 days of uninterrupted downtime for me, no radio show or business meetings or comedy gigs, no TV appearances or social functions, no press interviews or photo shoots. Just me, my golf clubs, and silence. Man, when I tell you how excited I was about this, you can't even imagine. So he set the stage, Naomi, right? He's a busy guy. He's always providing for his family. Obviously, he works hard. Anyone can tell that he works hard. And he wants to spend it resting and relaxing. And I kind of assume when he says resting, he really means like meeting up with a prostitute or meeting up with one of my friends. But he can't say that explicitly. Just as I was putting the final touches on my plans, Marjorie comes into my office, sits down in a chair across me and says simply, you know, Steve, I just love your spontaneity. Really? What makes you think I'm spontaneous? I asked, smiling. You're not just crazy. You're actually a lot of fun to be around. You take time to enjoy life. You like to make it seem like you're a homebody, and you never want to leave the house. But I know that you're getting out, going golfing and fishing, and doing the things that you love to do, she said sweetly. I love that about you, and I'm glad you're like that, because it inspires the rest of us to enjoy life. That's a great quality to have in a mate. I mean, does this feel like a real story about a thing that happened?
No, it does not. It feels like, you know, when people on TikTok are like, oh, my 6-month-old told me that I should dump their dad because he's awful to me. Like, that's what it sounds like to me.
It does. My wife Marjorie came in and she's like, can you believe what Joe Biden is doing to the people of Yemen? And I was like, oh, that's a really prescient point, Marjorie. I know that even you, someone unversed in geopolitical politics, can recognize the atrocities being committed against the Yemenis people. And because of that, I will commit my life to justice. I've seen this tweet.
Hey, you don't know if she is a part of the geopolitical platform, okay? We don't know what his wife's name is, okay? We cannot not give her credit. She has been married to Steve Harvey for years, okay? We need to give her credit there. We need to appreciate her.
Take
okay,
a bullet for us. That's fair. That's fair. But okay, so two things here. One, this isn't a comment to her about him being a great protector or provider, right? It's not anything that men, he thinks, want to be known for. And yet this is the thing that sets him off. Two, this is not an anecdote most people can appreciate because most people don't have like $3,000 in their back pocket to fly to Georgia at a fancy golf resort and get private golfing lessons by themselves in a hotel room for a couple of days and then fly back to resume their high-paid media celebrity career. So it's a bad anecdote on that front as well. It's not at all relatable. But he continues. Before she could get the last of her sentence out of her mouth, I'd invited her to come with me on my solo golf weekend getaway. I mean, how could I resist? Here is this beautiful woman complimenting me on something I didn't even see in myself and thanking me for leading by example. Wow, really? Oh, gee, gosh, Joe, go, Willikers. I added that part. You want me to come with you on your golf weekend, Marjorie asked, shocked by the invitation. Yeah, I said excitedly before I could even think to stop myself, and I'm going to take all the kids. Now, even as I'm extending the invitation, my brain is going, no, dummy, that's not quality alone time. Those kids are going to be acting crazy. There's water and jet skis, and they're going to want to rent a boat. You're going to have to let them do all that with them. You can kiss, cigar smoking, sleeping in, and those leisurely rounds of golf goodbye. What's wrong with you? So in this anecdote, Steve is expressing that he hates his kids. He can't bear to spend time with his kids. And I understand he's just trying to relax. Maybe he likes his kids the other 363 days a year, but not the most flattering thing to say. Next thing I know, it's a family affair. All of us are headed to the lake on my solo golfing trip, just because my girl extended a thoughtful comment that made my heart swell. Now, I can't even imagine someone saying you're spontaneous to me and me not just acting confused. What do you mean by that? Is that a compliment? Is that an insult? Are you trying to start something? What's going on here? She wasn't trying to horn in on my trip. Marjorie genuinely was happy to let me get in my alone time. But I felt it was just right to bring her and my kids along because this woman was showing her appreciation for a characteristic I barely saw in myself. And though I surely would have enjoyed spending that time alone, I had incredible time bonding with my family. We rented a cottage, caught up with one another's lives. Hey, so you're 13 now. Anything I should know about your life? Snuggled around the fire pit, making and eating enough s'mores to feed a small army, and laughed and played together way into the night. Marjorie got a massage while I hung out with the kids, and then she spent time with them while I got in my tea time out on the golf course. And when my caddy pulled up to the cottage after my golf outing, Marjorie and the kids had a surprise waiting for me that I'll never forget. Right there on the sidewalk leading to the cottage was a big pastel chalk drawing designed by my family just for me. In big, colorful bubble letters, they'd written out, "Welcome home, Diddy," with the E drawn backwards. Each of my kids wrote their names and what they wanted to be when they grow up. There was also a sprawling family tree with all of their names as well as the names of the grandparents, uncles, aunts, and cousins. And next to that were two huge signs that said simply, "Thanks for the trip," and to Daddy, the hardest working man in show business, with a hand drawing of a microphone and a crazy picture of me. Up on the deck, Marjorie had the grill going, and the kids were all there, waving and laughing and calling out to me. Side note here, Marjorie should have let the man grill, as he's established multiple times. I can't believe she would make him feel inadequate like this. Grilling from ear to ear, I couldn't find the words to express how good that made me feel. This massive display of appreciation for my family didn't cost much or take up a huge amount of time. The chalk couldn't have been more than a few dollars. The drawings couldn't have taken more than 20 minutes. But I'll tell you this much. Their words of appreciation were worth $1 million to me. And their smiles, priceless. It validated for me that everything I'm doing to profess, provide, and protect my family is not only necessary, but well worth it. Things like this make me want to work that much harder for them, to make sure that they've got everything they need, and to certainly give them a lot of what they want to. My caddy, a young man in his late 20s, took in the scene, and as he handed me my golf bag, said simply, "You're a lucky man. That must feel great." I hope I have this one of these days. Yeah, I said, shaking my head in wonderment. Every man should have a family just like this. That caddy was definitely looking for a tip, by the way. Steve thinks that like all the waitresses at restaurants are actually flirting with him. He's like, oh, they're so nice. They must find me super attractive. And it's like, no, they're being nice to you so you'll tip well, bud.
And he leaves them $5 on an $800 bill. Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks with a handwritten card meant for one of his kids.
Yeah. I feel like this entire story is fake, but like that's just my POV.
That's just your POV. Yeah, it doesn't feel real, but even if it is, it's incredibly unrelatable. It doesn't track with what he said about men wanting compliments, because it's like, if you compliment in a way that men don't understand, they're more likely to do crazy stuff for you. It's not good, Steve. This doesn't make you look any better of a person. This doesn't make you look like less of an asshole. Clearly you don't like your kids and expect your wife spends all the time raising them. You want to pretend that you work like super hard and that this is a rare weekend for you. But like, I don't know if that's true, bud. I think you have plenty of downtime and can schedule it when you want. I don't think your radio show and TV shows are once every single day. I think you can backlog that stuff too. You work hard because you want to, not because you need to, at being a multimillionaire billionaire. I don't know, man. It's a terrible anecdote, and it's a really good way to wrap up the chapter. Number 11, Naomi, is dollars and cents. And I don't like this because he actually gives good financial advice. And that's frustrating because, like, Steve gives a lot of really horrible advice throughout the book. And if you come across good advice, as we've talked before, you might be like, oh, the other advice must be good as well. And no, it's just that Steve knows a lot about money because he is, like, incredibly wealthy. And so he can make some insightful comments about it. So we've talked about this before, Naomi. Do you remember what Steve Harvey's advice is about checking accounts?
You have 3 checking accounts. You have one as the wife, you have one as the husband, and then you have one together to pay for all the household needs and stuff, so everybody can spend their money the way they want to. And thinking back on it, I'm thinking about the fact that he never said that a couple needs it. He said a husband and a wife needs it because he, is extremely homophobic, but it's fine. Moving on. Is that the checking account advice that you were looking for?
I think you're missing one, because there's also a savings account that's shared.
Oh, yeah, but you just said checking account. You said, what is the checking account advice? Yeah.
Fair point. Yeah, so he's like, hey, have your shared household expenses, then have fun money. I want a separate account so I can buy my cigars. Marjorie wants a separate account so she can get her nails done. Okay, not horrible advice. I do think you're going to find in relationships that often each partner will have different interests. I like pickles. Lauren doesn't. Sometimes I buy pickles without her money. Funny how these things work. Now, the chapter is about how money can lead to stress in relationships. And his advice here, which is pretty good about how to structure accounts, is framed in an interesting way. Because he's like, what if a man isn't providing money in a relationship? How can you make that man feel better about himself? And the answer will surprise you, Naomi, because it turns out you should set up this elaborate checking account structure so that it's not a matter of like people are sharing equally in the household. It's a matter of that man having his name on the checks. So when his wife's money is going out the door to pay a bill, he can have like a feeling of pride because his name is also on the check that's paying for the gas or the electric or whatever.
Okay.
So when he calls the internet company and is like, hey, I'd like to make a payment with my wife's money, the lady on the other end will be like, of course, Mr. Smith, more than happy to take your banking information, Mr. Smith. And he doesn't have to suffer the indignation of his wife having an account solely in her name that stuff is paid out of. Like, imagine if like he was like, I'd like to call in and pay the bill. And he was like, my wife's name is Susan and this is her account. It would ruin him. He would tear his hair out. But if you have this elaborate 4 checking account structure set up, you don't have to worry about it.
So understandable, but also it's a good idea to like have all your like accounts in the same name so that when you want to pay a bill, let's just say Marjorie just happens to pass away very suddenly, that you can cancel the account, or you can pay it without your wife being there. And I would say the same about like husbands. Like, you always want to know this information as a couple, so in the case that something bad does happen, or you just want to frickin' pay the bill, that you can.
Yep. I guess my problem here is not that it's bad advice. It's just that the framing is like, do everything so your husband doesn't get like his fragile masculinity shook. I find that troubling. I'm reminded of that scene in Lilo and Stitch where they're at the pound and Lilo has no money to purchase Stitch. So she elbows her sister, who's the actual adult in the room, and her sister hands her the money she needs. And then Lilo hands it to the clerk. And it's this cute little scene that establishes, like, Lilo's a child. She has no, like, rights. She has no, like, capability to purchase Stitch. She has to rely upon, other people. And it's exactly what he's proposing here. Yeah, I don't think this is horrible advice. Just Steve seems to think the ideal man is one who needs to be pampered this way. And before you're like, Joel, this is just advice for dealing with particularly indignant men who you're married or dating, he finishes the section by comparing this setup, which he dubs human nature, with men who spend frivolously and don't budget, which he considers rebelling against their natural instincts to protect. So, like, he even sets up the contrast and is like, all men are going to do this thing where their feelings of self-worth are going to be sabotaged. Make sure you pat them on the head and give them a cookie when they make payments with your money. And it's like, no, that's not how things should work. I don't know. I guess maybe this harkens back to, words of appreciation and making sure that you're recognizing your husband, but like recognize them for the right things, not for making a payment on an account that you exclusively provide money for. Maybe I'm overthinking this.
I think you are, but at the same time, you're overthinking it in a way that makes it so that Steve Harvey looks bad, so I appreciate it.
Okay. Chapter 12, I think this is the last chapter, and then he has some sections where he like answers other questions. It's called The Art of the Deal, How to Get What You Want Out of a Man. It's just a refresh, how to negotiate with men to get what you want. He also then finishes the book and gives a cheat sheet / quick rundown of how to please their women. Do you find anything weird about that? A list of 10 things that a man can do to improve his relationship with a woman.
Okay, I'm going to say it's weird because Steve Harvey thinks that all men should be catered to, so it's interesting that he's saying that men should cater towards women. That's my first thought. The second thing is, are these sexual things, or are these like regular schmegular, like, oh, you should buy her a coffee in the morning if she likes coffee? Like, give me some intro into like what these are.
I just posted them. So
okay.
we could read these together. First one is thou shalt give her free time. So make the time for her to be able to take a class or pursue a hobby because she's been too busy with work.
Okay.
Not bad.
Thou shalt remember the small things. Rub her back and feet, run her bathwater, and give her quality alone time without obligation to give you some cookie for your troubles. Ew.
I can't believe I forgot he uses the phrase the cookie for that. Number 3. Thank you, Steve Harvey. Number 3, thou shalt consistently find new ways to say I love you. Love notes go a long way. Slip one in her wallet, briefcase, or lunch bag just because. She'll appreciate you were thinking about her and told her you love her without prompting. Hey, that's almost like showing appreciation for your husband. Weird. Okay.
Thou shalt chip in. I hate how these are like commandments. You know what I mean? It's like, Steve Harvey, shut the fuck up. Wash the dishes,
literally
do
God.
the laundry. Yeah, he is God. Yeah, Steve Harvey the God. Wash the dishes, do a load of laundry, clean the bathroom, or do some other chores she usually handles. If you can or don't want to handle it yourself, hire someone to do it for you. That'll be one less thing she'll have to do, and she'll be grateful for the help. I have to admit,
number 5, thou shalt help with the kids. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I can't imagine Steve Harvey like getting on his hands and knees and scrubbing a floor. So that's a funny image to me.
Hey, honey, I hired a servant.
Go ahead with 5.
Number 5, thou shalt help with the kids, offer to put them to bed a couple nights a week, or run them to their extracurricular activities.
6, thou shalt embrace the art of foreplay. If candlelight and soft music used to get her in a romantic mood, but you haven't used either of them in years, get back to romancing her. She'll appreciate the effort and respond in kind.
Number 7, thou shalt respect her schedule. Sure, you should be able to get in a little overtime at work, go for a 3-day golf weekend with the guys without being hassled about it, but it's better for everyone involved. You coordinate your schedule with hers instead of assuming she will just handle everything.
Okay. Thou shalt send her roses just because. Don't wait for birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays to shower her in the things she loves. A simple bouquet of flowers or a pack of her favorite candy is a kind gesture that will show her you were thinking about her.
Number 9, you shall remember the golden rule. You can be happy or you can be right.
That is my golden rule. 10, thou shalt always take her side. Of course, your mother taught you that she's always right. The woman you sleep with at night must feel like you've got her back, no matter what she's got going up against her. Wait, no matter who she's going up against, she'll give the same support too.
Now, Naomi, I honestly don't think any of this is terrible advice, except maybe 6, because it's like, read a book on how to find the clit. I think they might appreciate that more than candles and soft music. But my problem here is, this is genuinely good advice for how men can help their partners. And it's really baffling that A, it comes at the end of the book, and B, he's been telling women the entire goddamn book that men cannot change. Let me read you a quick quote from Steve. The man who truly wants you will accelerate for you. He will pick up the pace and walk in lockstep. You can't change him. By his late 20s, however, he will have solidified who he is as a man. This is a running theme throughout the text, that women cannot expect their men to change. And here he is, at the end of a book that no man he thinks is going to ever read, giving advice for how men can in fact change and step up and do decent things for their wife. So that makes you think that he's either wrong about men being unable to change, and women should expect their partners to step up and do these things, or he's right about men being unable to change, and women cannot expect their partner to do these 10 commandments. It doesn't fit. And I think it further reinforces the whole written by multiple people perspective we offered near the beginning, because, like, it is completely incongruous with, like, anything else he's discussed in the text.
No, I definitely agree, but I also think it's like, it could be written by him, but it's his way of selling books, because if he's trying to sell books, he's obviously going to cater towards the women. You need to, like, mate with someone, so obviously you need to get rid of all of your expectations and settle for a man who literally does nothing around the house. And then at the very end, he's like, man, you can, like, do something for them to, like, surprise them. And then they'll appreciate you more. Because, like, if this is out of character for you, like, if you buy her roses for the first time in, like, 20 years, she'll be like, oh my God, you're the best husband ever. And I think that it's just his way of getting both sides, like, getting both audiences.
I think that's probably perfectly understandable. Unfortunately, this is an attempt to get as many sales as possible. So the advice is both generic and oddly specific at times. It's a mess. He's basically saying men are big babies who can never change, so women have to do everything. He offers very few anecdotes about his life that supports his assertions, or he strains to connect them, and often they contradict his own lessons, like that one in the very first part about the Ford motor plant. He's doubling down on the sexist advice, but at least recognizes in this one that women have the ability to leave relationships, so that's an improvement. I mean, there are a few sprinklings of helpful advice in this text, but it's mostly just sexist drivel about keeping your legs closed, not dressing like a slut, and putting up with partners who do less shit in relationships. It's a bad, bad book, and I would strongly recommend to our listeners that they do not go out, despite what they think we think. Don't go out and buy your friends a copy. Purchase a copy secondhand and maybe use it as firewood or something.
Ooh, such a good idea.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts, Naomi? Should I just play the Family Feud music as we, like, close out?
Yeah, I do have to say it wasn't his worst book, but it's definitely not a good book.
Of the 2 books we've read, it's not his worst.
No. This is the third, Joel. This is Think Like a Man, Act Like a Lady. Nope. Didn't we read Think Like a Man, Act Like a Lady too?
Nope. It was just one. We did 3 parts, I think, of Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man.
No, there were so many freaking parts of that. Joel, how many I feel like Steve Harvey's been beaten to death on this podcast already, and that was not just in 3 parts. Like, I will go back and look at all of the Steve Harvey episodes that we have, because there's been way too many.
For our listeners, I think they know the truth, but oh god. Okay, so he's written a couple of books. He's written Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. He's written Straight Talk, No Chaser. Those are the dating advice ones. He's also written Act Like a Success, Think Like a Success.
Think like a what?
Think Like a Success.
Okay.
He's written a series of comics. Steve Harvey Presents The Adventures of Roopster Roo. Do you know about this?
No.
He's written Jump, Take the Leap of Faith to Achieve Your Life of Abundance. Oh man, more prosperity gospel shit. Oh man, he's got a canon, Naomi. A literary canon, not like a big penis. Wow. Wow. Okay, well, I don't think we're going to discuss any of those on our podcast, but you know what? Crazier things have happened. Anything to close out on?
We hope you have a great week. Don't buy this book. And we love you all. Wear a condom.
And grow a mustache. We have many thanks for the use of our theme music, which is the song Drop by Ketsa. You can find more of their music online at ketsa.uk. You can also find Date These Guys online on Twitter and Instagram at DateTheseGuys or visit datetheseguys.org. If you have questions for the podcast or want to be a wealthy sugar parent, send an email to datetheseguys@gmail.com. If you're looking to make an impact in the world, this show strongly recommends Planned Parenthood, a nonprofit organization that provides reproductive health care in the United States. Planned Parenthood provides birth control, long-acting reversible contraceptive implants, clinical breast examinations, pregnancy screenings, prenatal care, testing and treatment for sexually transmitted infections, and abortions. They also do great work for those who are lower income. 4/5 of their clients are at or below 50% of the federal poverty line. Both Joel and Naomi are monthly donors to Planned Parenthood. We hope you will be too.